Hello and welcome to Sophie & Co. I'm Sophie Shevardnadze. Today we're in Beirut, capital of Lebanon. When you're in this beautiful Middle Eastern city, it is hard to imagine that there is a battleground next door in Syria with endless blood, tears and destruction. And the echoes of this conflict cannot but resonate around Lebanon. And whomever you talk to in Beirut has one question on their mind: when is it going to be over?
Syria shattered into pieces. The war has left nothing intact. Little remains of the peaceful past, little kept for a peaceful future. As rebels fight the government and each other, the ones who suffer are the people. Is President Assad right or wrong? Or would stepping down be his best contribution? How does it feel to share the border with such a neighbor? We talked to Lebanon's ex-chief commander, the person who had his share of fighting with the Syrians, General Michel Aoun.
General Michel Aoun, thank you very much for being with Russia today.
You are welcome.
So, a year ago, when you were asked about the conflict in Syria, you expressed confidence that the opposition would lose. You still think so?
Well, they lost already.
How?
How? Oh, there is now a deal between Russia and the United States about the crisis. And it started by a major, let's say, compromising, you know, between Syria and the United States in giving up its weapons. And then it will not be for nothing, you know. Syria has to get something, you know, for that. So the process will continue to reach a final, let's say, settlement.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, the opposition is heavily financed by the Saudis and the West. The Western countries aren't even hiding it, that they're actually supplying arms to the Syrian opposition.
Well, now we are in the beginning, you know, and then you will see the crisis, you know, changing of face. Mm-hmm. I think that's the fate of the extremists now is decided, and they will be casted away from Syria.
Talking about extremists, President Assad says that he defines the opposition in two different groups. There are the ones who care for the Syrian people, who want good for their country, and then there are, you know, the jihadists, the extremists who actually kill and torture people, but they also call themselves opposition. Do you agree with that definition?
Certainly. I think there is, you know, two sides in Syria. The extremists who are, you know, coming from everywhere, you know, of the Islamic world, and they are paid, you know, to do the war. They are not only Syrians, you know, with 50% of them is strangers, are strangers. So those, with some people of Syria, are not fighting for the democracy. They are fighting for an extremist and, Islamic regime, and who doesn't fit, you know, the plans of the people of Syria.
You know, we just saw recently Syrian faith being decided between world players, between America, Russia, the West and Russia and China, not the Arab world, which is also quite strange. Do you think there are world players who really are working in the best interest of Syria, or it's just political gaming between the big powers?
I think they are going to withdraw, you know, from the battle. No, they are not strong enough to continue the war without the support of the Western countries.
The opposition, you mean?
Yes, I mean, certainly.
But you don't think the West will continue to finance the opposition and supply arms to opposition?
I don't believe they will continue, no.
You also have said that Israel benefits from this conflict in Syria. Why do you think so?
Not too much.
Okay, so it wouldn't be in the interest of Israel for Assad to fall, right?
I don't think so. Because the regime which will be in place, it will be against Israel. And let's say in a short time, Israel will find itself, sieged, from every side by these people.
But just imagine that Assad falls, he loses his presidential seat. What would that mean for the region?
Well, the victory of the extremists and will not, hope democracy in a short time. So it will last, indefinitely, let's say.
And for Lebanon, what would it mean?
Everybody, because Lebanon will fail too.
Assad has recently said that whoever wants to dismantle his chemical arsenal for $1 billion during 1 year, he's welcome to do it. Do you think there will be volunteers to do it? And who could be those people who will actually take care of that?
Maybe he asked him to have the price of these weapons. Maybe he will get, this, maybe not. But I think at least he will give, the arsenal, chemical arsenal.
But who do you think will dismantle the chemical arsenal? Who will actually go into Syria and dismantle his chemical stockpiles? Americans?
I think, international committee with some technical people, specialized people, in that matter, will come and to do the job. Under the auspices of the United Nations.
There are reports that Assad may be transferring his chemical stockpiles to Hezbollah to hide them from international community.
No, I don't think so.
But do you think Hezbollah may have chemical weapons?
No, it's forbidden by the religious law to use these weapons.
It's also forbidden in Syria, but someone used it.
No, they are not Hezbollah.
No, I'm not saying it's Hezbollah, but it's also a Muslim country.
Hezbollah will not use the weapons. I know that it's forbidden,
I'm going to read out your quote from this summer's interview. "We are against intervention in the absolute sense, but a series of security incidents forces those who are responsible to intervene." But isn't that the same logic behind what Obama was proposing, a local strike?
No, I don't think so.
What did you mean by what you were saying, this quote?
Absolutely, I am against any intervention, foreign intervention in Syria. But practically they are intervening, in sending, the Al-Nusra, the Al-Qaeda, they are sending weapons, they are, all the logistics is made by Turkey and by Jordan. So they are intervening in an indirect way.
For right now, it seems like we may have found a diplomatic solution, but the option to strike Syria is still there. No one is going to give you a guarantee that America is not going to strike it. What do you think?
They don't have the conditions, in the United States, within the United States, that to do this strike. Because the American people, and he is the first, let's say, decision agency, United States, refuse, to do, these strikes. And I don't think also United States is in economical condition to have the possibility to do it. And there are many, constraints on the Americans, so they cannot do.
We're going to take a short break now, and after the break we will talk about the long-term consequences the Syrian conflict will have around the region and in Lebanon. Welcome back to the show. We're talking to General Michel Aoun about the Syrian conflict and its consequences around the world, in the region, and particularly in Lebanon. I'm going to read another quote of yours. "The West considers human rights a marketing slogan, not a true principle according to which they behave." What did you mean by this quote?
I mean, they don't respect the human rights. They make a propaganda with the human rights. That's it's like just a commercial level. They speak about and they don't respect.
But many would argue that Assad, for example, is also committing horrible human rights abuses just as much as the opposition, and he's equally responsible for war crimes just like the opposition.
I don't think what's rightly is going in Syria, but in Syria they are defending themselves, and both of the two parties, they have to respect, the international conventions of Geneva and the annexes of the appendix of this convention. If they don't respect it from both sides, nobody will, judge them for that. Everybody will cry, will shout, will say anything, but nobody will hear and nobody will see. But only that's a, let's say, verbal, let's say, vocal protest, no more.
I have spoken to many Syrians, and their opinion about President Assad varies. President Assad himself, he says that he would not have been able to stay in power this long unless he had the support of the Syrian people. Do you think the majority of Syrians support him?
Yeah, the Syrian people saw, the atrocities made by, let's say, by the revolution or by the opposition. And so they started to refuse this opposition, even if the beginning were supporting it. So I think we still have the majority of the Syrian people.
So you believe people who were opposing Assad in the beginning are on his side now because they just don't want the Islamist opposition?
A big part of them.
But what about the Syrian refugees in Lebanon? There are about 1 million Syrian refugees in Lebanon. What are their status now? Because from what I understand, Lebanon wasn't even able to give them a camp like Jordan did. Are they in a free flow? What are they doing? How are they doing?
They are going everywhere. They are not domiciliated at any place. Many of them, let's say. The first, waves of refugees found, a home, and but the others, no. And when the winter will start, we'll have a big problem for them.
Because according to the article that I read recently, unemployment rate in Lebanon doubled in just 1 year because of the Syrian refugee exodus to Lebanon.
Well, it is not up to us to do all the job, for them. We need the help of the United Nations, and we need that help will go to the refugees to come back to Syria, because Syria is 18 times more than our territory.
But Syria is not going to be functional anytime soon. Even if the war ends, it's a country that's devastated by a war. So you can't go back if you're in Lebanon already. So it looks like these refugees will be staying in Lebanon. What are you going to do with them?
Well, there are many safe areas in Syria. You know, I spoke about the space in Syria. I said 18 times more than Lebanon, and there are many safe places, areas, and they can build up some camps for them.
So you just want them to go back?
I think United Nations will be ready, you know, to help them there, and not here. We don't have the areas capable to contain all these people.
Do you have the jobs? You don't have the jobs either.
Right now, we are about 600 per square kilometer. So this, we are overcrowded here.
What about the Palestinian refugees? I mean, they've been in Lebanon for a while now, and they're still not naturalized. How come?
How come?
Yes.
Because there is an anti-Arab decision that they will keep their national identity till going back to their country, because all the nations, you know, promised to them to recognize, you know, a national home for the Palestinians. Well, so they are waiting that the United Nations will respect, you know, its promises.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of the Arab Spring phenomenon? What has it done for the world, the Arab Spring?
Well, all the bad things. They have revolutions, they are civilian wars. Many of the resources of the countries are destroyed. They have, they only have fights, they are not growing war. Well, what they can have more than that, you know.
You know, with Arab Spring around, and then you have the Syrian crisis right next door, how safe do you feel in Lebanon? How, you know, you have that, and plus the Syrian crisis. How can it affect?
Well, we'll have side effects, you know. We'll have more, right now, more common crimes. We'll have some difficulties, you know, in our economy. And I don't think maybe we'll have more difficulties, you know.
But I don't only mean economically. Like, for instance, Hezbollah openly supporting Assad regime, it causes the Sunni extremist anger that could actually maybe turn into a local civil war in Lebanon, no?
You know, the Muslims Sunni are making plus, you know, in Syria, and they are responsible, not the Lebanese only, but all the Gulf countries, you know, they are helping the opposition and to get counter the Syrians, and they are making the Syrians fly from the country and come to Lebanon. So that's the result, the consequence of the, let's say, of the Sunnis in the Middle East.
Do you agree that Lebanon is an arena for settling counts with other different countries, like Saudi Arabia and Iran are fighting within each other on Lebanese grounds? They're using Lebanon as an arena.
It will not happen.
No?
It will not happen. The problem is A year was in our place, another place.
Because after the bombings Lebanon suffered recently, many thought that, you know, the country has become exposed to security point of view. You don't agree?
Well, maybe it was, you know, for a moment, but it will not begin again.
But Lebanon has always been a very secular state, as secular as it can get in the Middle East. But there is a growing Islamist movement around the region. Can that affect Lebanon? Are you not worried? It's all over the region. How can Lebanon stay away from that phenomenon?
With the defeat of the extremists in Syria will never happen. To become, you know, well, let's say another regime. It will have not, you know, another regime. It will stay secular.
You seem pretty determined that the extremist opposition is going to lose in Syria, right?
Yes.
Okay. How much does religion, in general, drive political decisions in Lebanon?
Not too much.
No?
No. They are parties. It is not, you know, the religions.
But I mean, you have...
Those are, you know, political parties based on religion base.
But okay, for example, you have Hezbollah, who is clearly very religious, faith-based, and they have millions of supporters. So they, you know, their faith and religion must have a say in political decisions.
Yes, and we are secular, and we have also our supporters. And then not in, let's say, because we are Muslims or Christians, you know, we decide politics. We are a political party. Lebanon is politically divided, but on religion's base. So what we do for the country is political. And when we have to pray, to go to church or to the mosque.
Lebanon holds actually deposits of oil and gas.
Yes.
Why aren't you tapping into those deposits now? Are you waiting for Syria to finish?
No, we are trying, you know, to do it. There's some parties are refusing that, and they are, you know, in the government.
Why are they refusing?
Well, they don't say why. That's a mysterious thing, you know. The prime minister, well, doesn't make the meeting necessary to confirm, you know, the law that will give, you know, let's say the oil societies, you know, to give a final proposal for tapping the petrol, the oil.
But it would seem like it would benefit whole of Lebanon if these reserves are used for the country, no?
That is the capricious, you know, system that we have.
General Michel Aoun, thank you very much for this interview.
Also, you are welcome.